Hey developers, today we're going to look at how we can do communication using Vue components. We're going to look at a couple of ways, maybe ones you haven't even heard of or haven't used before. So let's take a look. Hey, and if you don't know, my name is Eric. I'm a full stack software developer. I'm also the author of the Vue.js in Action book. I'm a big Vue fan, but if you like Vue.js, if you like React, if you like Angular, make sure you click that subscribe button and slam that like button. It really helps me out. Don't break your computer. Just click on it. Click it, I really appreciate that. So this tutorial, we're going to talk about 5 different ways that we can do communication inside Vue.js between a parent component and a child component. Now, there's actually more than one way to do things. There's actually more than 5 ways to do things, but we're going to talk about some more like 5 more common ways you can do it. If you see a way I didn't mention, leave a comment below. So I'd love to see your guys' comments and what you think best ways of doing communication between components and Vue, or just your experience with Vue. Yeah, leave a comment. I'd love to see a conversation in the comment section. Before we get too far, let's have a quick word from our sponsor. I just want to take a moment and thank our sponsor, .tech Domains. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably love domain names and you love to buy ones that are short and relevant, but also most importantly available. And that's what's really cool about .tech Domains. There's a ton of really cool domains available, and the .tech domain is broad enough that you can kind of understand that this is technology related as well. A lot of really cool sites are using .tech domains like Hollywood.tech, Viacom.tech, even personal sites like AustinEvans.tech. So if you guys are interested and you want to search for a really cool domain name, go to go.tech/Erik and then search for your domain name. If you end up buying it, you actually get up to 80% off on 1-year and 5-year domains. So go to go.tech/Erik and go ahead and pick up that domain name. Thanks. Okay. Oh, and one other quick plug. I have a Vue course. It's called Vue 360. I'm really proud of it. It's a ton of information. Basically, it's a master level Vue course. I'm going to put a link in the description too if you guys want to check it out. All right, so I went ahead and created a really simple app right here. You can see there is it's not too much to look at. This was just created in about 10 minutes using Tailwind CSS. And I'm going to put in the link in the description below the GitHub to this project. But I just have this parent container. You can see it's outlined in blue here. And then underneath it, I have a child container. And I have text. So I have a text area box here, and the idea would be is you type something in this text area, it's inside the parent component, and you click this button, which right now doesn't do anything, and then it would send it to the child component back inside here, and you would actually see the text right here. So this is a really simple illustration of how we're going to take one component and send information to another component. Now in this video, we're not going to look at sending like component to component that aren't child of each other right now. Obviously that's another video, but that's another thing we could do, and some of these techniques will actually work that way as well. Okay, so here is our app. So obviously we have nothing in our app view, nothing in our home view. Child view is pretty easy. So this home view right here, you can see here some just basic classes that I set up using Tailwind CSS. Our parent, we have this text area, some H2s, and our child component, which we are here right here. So I just want to kind of go over, I'm just going to real quickly go over what we're going to do. So we're going to have 5 different ways we're going to do it. First, we're going to look at the way you guys probably know if you've watched this video, if you've watched any sort of Vue video, I should say, you will know that props is probably one of the most common ways to push information from a parent component to a child component. So we're going to look at that first. We're going to look at props. And then we're going to look at a kind of a way that some people use. It's not as popular, but we're going to look at inject and provide. And then we're going to look at this .refs, which is part of the Vue API. And then we're going to look at the tried and true way of using Vuex. And then the last and not certainly least way, and probably not most recommended way, but something we could do in a pinch, is to use Vue root or the prototype on the Vue app itself. So those are 5 different ways. Now, there is more than the 5 ways. You could probably think of a few, and I want to hear you guys in the comments below of what you think. So let's start with number 1, props. Okay. Props. All right. So here we have our child component. Remember, all we need to do is pass some data over. So first, we can see here, I already added a click handler called send. So every time you click this button, it does send. And then I also add this vModel text. So in my data, I have this text and message. And what I can do is let's add in message here. And let's just see if it appears. If I'm not going to bind it at first. I'm just going to put some text in it. Hello world. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to refresh it and see if it works. So obviously I have this message here. I just need to go in the child component. And I actually need to declare props. So I can do props like this. And I can put a message in here. And by the way, this actually already had a message. It wasn't declared anywhere, but this is the message. And this is what the child component looks like. So now we're actually going to have this props message. Cool. So now we see we have a hello world. So our communication is working, but obviously we want to be able to type something here, click press me, and have it, show in the received here. So, first steps, baby steps. We got at least the message being passed down as props and just hard coding a value in. So if we want to bind it, we'll use the colon. Of course, we can use, we can actually bind it. The shorthand is the colon, which makes a lot of sense. And then we would actually put in a data method in here. So we're going to use message. So that will be the variable message. And I have this send here. And I remember I have this vModel text. So anything inside this text area will be on this text. And we'll just create a send here. Now you're probably thinking, do we really need to send? No, I mean, we can go without it, but for the clarity and sake of simplicity of this component, we're going to do it this way. So we'll do this dot message, which is we're going to send through the prop. It's going to equal this dot text. And then just for completionist sake, we're going to go ahead and clear the text. So let's see if that works. Type in there, hello, Erik. Send message. Cool. So it cleared out the text as we expected, and now the child shows that we received a message. Hello, Erik. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. So it's obviously communicating with our child component. ABC. ABC. Awesome. So now we have conquered the first of 5 ways. All right, so we have conquered the first of 5 ways. Let's take a look what we can do now. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that was really easy, but why would we want to use something else? Well, there might be some circumstances where we have a deeply nested child component. What I mean by that is that instead of, this is pretty simple, we have our parent component and we have one level down as our child component. But what happens if this child had multiple childs underneath it? And we wanted a way to send information down to that child component. So this is where we can use provide and inject, which is very simple to use. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of go, while I go through these examples, I'll probably be deleting. I'm going to delete some of the old stuff in here and add some of the new stuff in. But I kind of wanted the same pattern each time. I want to be able to put text in here, press me, and then it sends it over. Okay, so for provide, it's a little bit different. I'm going to create something called, right in here, it's going to be called provide. And this provide is a function. And it's going to return back something that you want to be shared with other components that inject it. So in this case, I'm going to just call it my text, and I'm going to do this dot message. And I'll just make sure to comma here, and this actually has to be an object it returns. So we wanted an object. So if we do it like this, and then we go back to our child component, and let's just see if we can see it. My text. And then one thing we want to do here is we add something called, let me check, inject. And inject is an array, I believe. Yep. And then we just put in the name. All right. So, and let's just, instead of putting this dot message, let's just put in hello world. Let's take a look. Okay, you can see right here, hello world. So it did it did actually send from our parent component to our child component. Obviously, this isn't very useful. So you're probably thinking, oh, well, this will be easy, right? So all I need to do is just change this my text to this dot message, right? So in that case, it should be the message. So if I refresh this, I put something in, press me, I don't see a message. It didn't change. It still says child here. There was actually another thing in here. It didn't work. And that's because by default, this reference isn't, this provide and inject, I should say, is not, in fact, reactive. It is not reactive out of the gate. So just by returning it like this, this won't make it reactive. We can, however, make it reactive. Now, the easiest way to do that is to actually, this is going to be a little goofy here, but we can make this message an object, because if it's an object and you assign it to the provide into this key here, into this object, it'll actually be reactive object. So since this isn't an object, a reactive object, it doesn't work. So if I wanted this to be kind of reactive, I would have to like kind of create another object here. So I could have maybe something called message info, and maybe this text. Well, let's leave it like this for a second. So now we have message info, and now we have to change this to message.info. That's what's going to send over. And this dot message.info equals this dot text. So let's see if that works. So okay, cool. Now we see in our app we have this info here, and it's blank. If I put in test, cool. So now it's updating. Obviously, it's updating. So let's go back and see how we can update this in the child so it works a little better. So we know it's my text, and we know it's my text.info. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. Instead of having message here, I'm going to put in my text.info. And now we can see here, we can just, well, we'll leave the props here. Let's see if it complains to us. Okay, so we put in hello world. Cool, so now it's working as it expects. So now we're using provide and inject instead of the actual props to pass in, just to make sure we're doing this right. I'll put received provide inject. You can see it's actually working. Now if I press it like there, cool. So it's working as expected. Okay, cool. So let's try our next one, and that is using .refs. So .refs is a way we can kind of grab elements inside our DOM, inside our Vue DOM, inside the template, and then we can manipulate it outside, inside our component, and we can actually grab information from child components into our parent component. So to do that, we're going to go to child here. We're going to add this ref, and then we're going to, inside the ref, we're going to put in the name. I guess we call it child. And now we should be able to access the child anywhere inside here. So let's just see under our console. Let's just console log this .refs. And let's .refs .child. Let's see if it worked. So I'm going to open up my console. And I'm going to type something in here, hit enter. Cool. So now we have this Vue component comes back, and this has all the information. Look, it has my text, message, has everything inside here. So this is the child component. So let's go back and kind of delete a few things. So let's put this back. Let's put this back to message. And I'm going to delete the inject for now. And I'm going to go back to our home. And we're going to just delete this provide because we don't need it. And we'll leave this here. So now we have the props to the message. And we can, if we want, do this a few ways. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and comment out this. And I'm going to do this.refs.child. And then we know that we have this message. And I'm going to have that equal the text. So I'm grabbing the data right out of the text and then setting it. So let's see if that works. If I put in test here, oh, it says avoid mutating your prop directly. It's been overwritten. Okay, so it's giving us an error about mutating the prop directly because we're actually going right in and doing that. So instead of doing that, probably a better way of doing it is create a data object, return a message, have it equal this. We're going to get rid of it there. And then redo this.child.data.message. Let's see if that works. I'm going to refresh it. Oh, so it says message of undefined. So look like I had error. There we go. We just had to put $ data. Let me try that. Put in values. Cool. So now it's working as expected. Awesome. And I think actually we don't even need to use this $ data. I think it's also available at .message too. Cool. So it's still working. If you look at the child component, we're no longer using the props at all. It's just using this data object. So you can see now we are directly going into the reference, into the child, and updating it without any issues, which is pretty neat. Okay, let's take a look at Vue.prototype. So this is kind of a way you can attach stuff to the prototype to access it in any of your Vue components. So it's I don't necessarily recommend this, but it's something you can definitely use. If you can do, so one way you can do it is you import Vue from Vue, and now you can do something like this. You can do Vue.prototype, and now you can just put whatever you want here. You can call it, I don't know, usually $sign is a kind of a way that most people do it. I can do $message, and I can have equal this.text. And now anywhere you have $message can be accessed anywhere, just doing this $message. So instead of having this message here, I can do $message, and I think it should still work. So let's see here. Oh, so message not defined. So yeah, I did Vue.prototype.message this.text, and I think to get this working, let's see this.message. Let's see if that works. Okay, so it still doesn't see it. You might have to do it like this. Message equals this $message. And if we put it in here, cool. So you can see it's still working. Test 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right, so now we have communication using Vue.prototype. So you can just see right here, I can just change this to proto. Make sure it gets updated. Cool, test. All right, so now we're using Vue.prototype, which I think is kind of interesting that you could do it this way. But yeah, that's definitely a way to do it. Also, if you want, I'll give you a little bonus way to do it too. Since we have this, since we have this prototype here, this message, there is a parent and child relationship before we're using this.refs. But what happens if we didn't do this right here, and we changed message back to the way it was, and now we did this.message equals this.text. And now if you do it like this, and we'll go ahead and get rid of Vue, I'm not using the Vue prototype anymore. You can see if I test something in here, it's not working anymore because we've broken it. We're not using any ref, but you can actually, in child, if I put $parent.message, it should actually get the message. And by the way, we can just get rid of that. So let's see here. If I put in hello world, all right, so now it's working. So now I've been able to actually be able to go directly to the parent from the child without passing anything down. Sweet. So once again, we have found yet another way to do it using $parent. Okay, so I think we've gone through so far. We did props. We did inject provide. We used the $refs. We used root prototype. we even used, I'll even add a 6 right here. This is our bonus. Use this.parent in the child. So let's use kind of a tried and true way, which I think is probably the best way to do it, especially with larger apps, is using Vuex. So this is going to take a little bit of setup. And I actually wrote a cheat sheet to remember all the things that we need to do here, because there's quite a few. Okay, so in our store, I'll save it, so I'll get it. There we go. Okay. So actually, I went ahead, just to make this a little bit quicker and faster, I went ahead and added everything in to the Vuex store for us already. So we have a get message with our state, which turns the state message. Our state is just the message. We have a set message action, which sends the message payload to the mutation, and the mutation just sets the payload. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why do you need both an action and mutation? I think it's just good practice when you're using Vuex to always use actions. You always commit actions. That way you always dispatch actions and you commit mutations. So it's just a little bit cleaner way, especially if you're doing with asynchronous data. In this case, we're not, but you could assume that maybe we wouldn't at some point or the other. So let's see if we can refactor our app to use this instead. So this message here, instead of doing this.text, we can actually, now we should be able to access the store, which is $store, and then we can dispatch an action. So we call it set message, and then we can send the payload along, which is this.text. So now we are dispatching the action, and just to make sure it's dispatching, I can test. I can actually look inside my Vue, my nice little Vue event here, and look at Vuex. Like, now I have nothing in there. If I press me, cool, I said the mutation ASDF, so now our state is ASDF. So we can see our getters, our state is all working correctly because we have this nice feature inside our Vue. This is just a Chrome extension for it. So now we know we did that right. And now we can go to our child Vue, and we can now set this message correctly. So we can do this a couple of ways. One way, we're still using this parent.message here, is we can do $store.getters, and then the name of the getter that we call it, which is called getMessage. getMessage. And let's see if that works. So let's just refresh it. Let's check the console. Oops, do we have an error? Yeah, we do have an error. Store getters.getMessage is not a function. So we just got to make sure we type that in right. I think it's actually just getMessage. Let's see. Cool, so no errors. If you type in hello. All right, so you can see here now it's updating using Vuex. Hi. Cool, so now we have it updating using Vuex. Now this is kind of sloppy, just putting it in here like store.getters.message. We could probably do better. So to do better, we're going to add import map getters from Vuex. And now we can do something like this. So computed, this is computed property. We'll do ... map getters. And I believe this is an array, so we call it getMessage. And we just have one error here because this is not, this is supposed to be like this. There we go. And now we don't need to use store.getters getMessage. Let's see if it still works. No errors in the console. Cool, still works. Refresh it, make sure it's still working. Awesome. Now if we wanted to kind of keep the same name we had before, you can actually make this as an object instead. Kind of like the same thing you do with props. So an object, and maybe we just want to call this message instead. And now, instead of getMessage, we can just call it message, which is sort of what we called it before. And once again, we'll refresh, test. All right, it's still working, which is good. And now a little bit cleaner using map getters and having it mapped to message. And now in the home, once again, we're using this.store.dispatch. So, not the cleanest thing, but we could use map actions. So import map actions from Vuex. So now we can use the spread operator and use map actions. Have an array, set message. And now, instead of doing this .store dispatch, we can do this dot get or set message, and then we just pass in the text, not as a text, but just actually the value, the payload. Cool. So now if we try it, refresh. All right, so it's still working. Cool. All right, we have now created 6 ways, 5 main ways, but 6 ways of doing communication between our parent component and our child component. So we'll go over it one more time. We have props, inject provide, this.rest, Vuex, Vue.prototype, basically using the prototype and using this.parent. So there's probably 5-6 more ways to do this. Leave a comment below. Let me show you your guys' way. Really appreciate it. Hope your mind was blown about all the ways we did it. I appreciate it. Thanks.